Again, good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're all safe and doing well in these uncertain times. Thank you once again for joining today's webinar with Ian Johnson, where he's going to be talking about the art of a simplified migration with the Genesis Peer Bridge program, which has been specifically designed to ease the transition to cloud from traditional on-premise systems. So just a little bit about Ian, our host today. He is a principal solutions consultant at Genesis, aligned to the Peer Bridge program, who helps customers and clients realize their customer experience strategy through working very closely with clients who are looking to migrate to the cloud. Ian has been working with within the contact center industry for the last 12 plus years. He has a lot of experience, and he gained that from working with industry-leading system integrators, vendors, as well as working directly with customers on customer experience transformational projects. If you do have any questions, please feel free to pop them into the Q&A window, and then I'm going to hand it over to you, Ian.
Thank you, Alicia. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're all safe and well down in South Africa. And like Alicia said, today, we're going to talk to you around the art of that simplified migration. So migrating yourselves across from those legacy on-premise solutions across to a Genesis cloud environment. Alicia's already introduced me, but I'm Ian Johnson, so I'm a principal solutions consultant for EMEA. So in the non-pandemic world, I do spend a lot of time down in South Africa as well. So once we can all sort of start traveling again, very happy to come and see you if you want to discuss and sort of understand in more detail how we can move you across to the cloud. So the agenda today, so I'm going to talk to you around what is the prescriptive migration methodology that Genesis has and how you guys can benefit from that, how we deliver that methodology, and then there'll be time at the end for any sort of questions and answers, but do feel free to ask any questions through the Q&A as we go through the session today. So, PureBridge Cloud Prescriptive Migration Methodology. What is that prescription migration? So it is a proven migration methodology that applies best practices to dramatically reduce the risk, simplify the complicated, and deliver measurable business value faster. That is our sort of ethos for the prescriptive migration methodology. And the plan is simple. So this slide depicts the 4 major stages that Genesis would undertake when working with our clients, migrating you from legacy on-premises solutions to a Genesis cloud offering. So we break it down, like I say, into those 4 major steps. So the first step is envision. So we come in and we will work in partnership with you, and this will be around sort of assessments and the assessment steps that we'd undertake. And I'll cover off those in more detail shortly. But as you can see, we will meet with various areas of your business to assess where you are today and where you want to be in the future. So do you want to improve the customer experience? Do you want to start empowering agents? And we would sit down and work through all of that with you. And with all of that detail, we will then come away, evaluate it, and identify any gaps and opportunities to help you realize any sort of improvements that you want to make in that CX vision that you have as an organization. Moving on to the next major stage, that is define. So we will come and look at what that realistic path is for you to get to your to-be state. And this is where we will come back and present our findings, our recommendations, and that all-important phased migration approach. We'll then look to migrate you. So we make sure that you're migrating across to a Genesis Cloud offering with confidence. So we base that migration on all of the things that we found out during the assessment phases, and it will all be based on our library of Genesis use cases. And then we will phase that migration across for you at a pace that you're comfortable with. And then next off is achieve. So this is all around making sure that you are measuring the business results. And we have services called value realization. And value realization is a key service that we can offer, and it is a key differentiator compared to our competitors. I'll cover this off in more detail shortly, but it's a service we offer, and it's a comparison of the KPIs, the to-be state versus what has been achieved. And with our industry experience, we can work with you to help close any of those gaps that may have been identified as you're going through that project. So Genesis sees your migration as a journey, and it's a journey that we take together. So as a vendor, we just don't disappear if we've sold you a solution, for example. We've helped in excess of 1,200 customers take the very same journey and continue to evolve this approach based on lessons learned and customer feedback. So this prescriptive migration methodology is constantly evolving to make sure that we're delivering back to our customers. We don't see the migration as a project with a fixed start and end date accompanied by that license transaction. It is a relationship we want to build with you and a journey we want to take together. Successful migrations are deliberately paced, and whilst we take all of those unique business needs into account, we focus on getting the basics right first. And that helps to reduce the risk and disruption, and so that you have that solid foundation on which to build for the future. We like to think of it as an approach, and that approach is a walk, run, fly approach. So the walk part of this approach is around that all-important migration and optimization. So we migrate and optimize your core contact center environment across to the Genesis cloud without any loss of functionality at all. The goal is to get you up and running and seeing and realizing that business value much more quickly. Once we've gone through that walk phase and that's embedded, we then move across to the run phase. And with that solid foundation that you've built as part of that walk phase, we now look and work with you at how we can enhance customer channels, develop that the context-based next best actions, and define performance metrics and expand that employee engagement. And then lastly, we can move across to that fly phase. And this is where we look to how to really help differentiate yourselves in your market, layering on advanced technologies and using data, machine learning and analytics to optimize and personalize every engagement that you have with your customers. So how do Genesis work with you to achieve this successful migration? So first up is the Pure Bridge assessments. So we have a defined approach for this, and we follow an assessment approach where we break this down into 3 logical steps. So the first step is to have a kickoff call, and this is where we get you guys on the call and where we review what your assessment goals are, what you want to achieve, the expectations, as well as the deliverables. And after that kickoff call, we will start to work on the discovery assessment activities, and I'll run through those shortly. Once we've completed all of those, we would then look to come back after analysing all of our findings and present back to you that all-important migration strategy. So what are the assessment workshop goals? So the assessment workshop is where, like I say, we will define a realistic roadmap and that phase migration strategy to ensure that you realise and your company realises that CX vision. So the first activity to be undertaken would typically be a Genesis Impact by Design exercise. And this is an exercise where we will work with you, and for a small period of time investment from your side, we look for you to start self-assessing yourself across 2 key areas of the contact center. And those 2 areas are your business drivers as well as your current contact center solution as well. We will look for you to rate yourselves at a maturity level across all areas of those 2 sort of main areas of your business, and then also look for you to rate yourselves in terms of where you want to improve that maturity, and also then look for you to prioritize where you want to make improvements across the contact center and those business drivers. With that information, we can then come back and present to you our findings and depict exactly how we can improve what you want to achieve based on deploying a Genesys Cloud environment. During this, all of the detail we collate equips us to define that roadmap and the Genesys use cases to help you migrate across the Genesys Cloud environment. And all of these are aligned to your requirements and the chosen deployment model that you want as well. Once all of the user cases are defined, we will be able to provide financial benefit benchmarks and a solution proposal with budgetary pricing to help support your internal business case. This will all be underpinned and supported by customized CX vision clips that you can share with your internal stakeholders throughout your organization to show what is possible in the future with that Genesys Cloud omni-channel contact center. Finally, we will be able to define the measurable or the desired measurable outcomes which will be referenced in that value realization service following the completion of that walk phase. So as you can see from an assessment workshop, there's a lot of activity that Genesys would undertake, but it gives you the comfort that we are making sure that when you come to start deploying the solutions, you're doing it in such a way that it's a phased migration based on what you want and what your business requirements are. So within workshop 1, what you can see in this slide is some of the activities that we would undertake with you. Typically, these would be done on site. However, and due to the current climate, we are undertaking these remotely. But we look and discuss with you your strategic goals and drivers as an organisation, any sort of challenges and roadblocks that you may have today. We would look to complete that Genesys Impact by Design exercise. And we like to try and assess how you currently operate today. So getting time with agents, looking at that agent desktop environment. What is customer experience for you guys today? Where you want to make improvements. We talk to supervisors, for example. So it's a very, very heavy discovery assessment, but we like to make sure that we fully understand how you all are working today. And like I say, the second workshop is around Genesys coming back and presenting that migration strategy to you. So we'll undertake another review of those vision and challenges. We'll look at potential maturity improvements across the environment. We will talk around that phase migration strategy with you. We will present back those financial benefits so we can provide you with ROI, TCO, benchmark information, for example. We'll present back the vision clips for you and talk through a definition of those measurable outcomes as well. So earlier on, I mentioned Genesys use cases. So what are those use cases? Genesys use cases map to your customer experience maturity level. During the assessment, we will have identified all of the areas that you want to improve on, and we will support and recommend the business steps for building a roadmap to your differentiated customer experience. They're designed to enable faster deployment than traditional customer experience platform replacements, and with a predefined scope, timescales, and budget, so there are not any surprises as you go through the project. Genesys use cases give you the product, service, and best practice expertise gained from thousands of global deployments, and these are well-defined designs for business and IT to offer clear how-to guidance to achieve maximum and incremental business benefits. They're easy to personalize and assemble, and they offer predictable and measurable outcomes, including improved customer experience, reduced cost of operations and increased revenue, and they help accelerate deployment, leading to a shorter project timeline. The use cases define the business process to be enabled, including the solutions, development effort, and expected outcomes. They are matched to your business goals and strategies, and because we start with the templates, we can implement quicker and it also helps reduce the risk as you're going through this migration with us. Over the last few years, we have developed a library of user cases covering all aspects of the contact center functionality, and this will help ease that migration as well. We like to think of them as mini statement of works, and we use them to help with the implementation and the pricing of it, the professional services effort as well. User cases define the business process to be enabled, including the solutions, the development effort, and those expected outcomes as well. They are matched with your goals, like I say, and your strategies. And ultimately, because they are templates, like I say, they help speed up the implementation and reduce that failure risk as you're going through the project. What I wanted to do with this slide really is to focus on reporting, and I've picked a legacy vendor there in terms of Avaya, but what we want to show you with this slide is reporting is one of the most common areas of concern for customers like yourselves when migrating across from those legacy solutions across to a new cloud offering from Genesys. And we understand that you've probably invested a lot of time and effort and probably money in that current reporting that you're doing today. As part of the migration, we would typically provide 4 or 5 system level reports, which we have encountered across most of our migrations. And beyond these, we have the reports that are designed specifically for each of those Genesys use cases as well. They are written to demonstrate the business outcomes defined within those user cases and support the financial benefit benchmarks provided during the assessment workshops that we will undertake with you. Now, from an historical reporting point of view as well, we have the ability to suck out all of that historical data from Genesys Cloud for you to then feed into any sort of existing data warehouse or BI tool that you may have as well. So just moving on to the sort of deployment briefly as well now. So based on our experience in the delivery of contact center solutions, we've developed a 3-phase strategy. And like I say, that phase strategy is walk, run and fly. If we focus on the walk phase, for example, this is where we would work with you to ensure that core contact center capability and functionality are deployed using an agile delivery model. This phase will include such items as inbound voice routing, for example, maybe basic third-party integrations to back-end systems like your CRMs, call recording, and maybe you have some outbound dialer capabilities that you want to take advantage of as well. Reporting will be tailored to those business outcomes defined in those user cases, like I say. And if voice recording is required, it would be enabled within the environment for customers moving across during this phase as well. Moving along now to the run and fly phase. This is where we can start layering on more deeper sort of third-party integrations. For example, you may have advanced WFO requirements, maybe performance management, quality management, WFM, for example. We can start layering on more advanced self-service functionalities for you. And then moving across to the later phase like fly, you may want to start taking advantage of our predictive engagement functionality as well, which is very, very common now within our deployed environments. But what I like to sort of say here is it's all underpinned by our Genesys customer success program as well. And I'll talk in more detail shortly around what that is. So what are the key migration components that we look at as we're migrating across to our customers to a Genesys environment? So we group migration components into 4 areas. And as you can see here, those 4 areas are infrastructure, functionality, integration, and the all-important education. From an infrastructure point of view, this is where we're looking at such things like what does that agent experience need to look like? How is the Genesys cloud environment needed to be architected for you based on your requirements? We then move across to the functionality. So this is the use cases, all of the reporting and data, integration. So this is integrating into your CRM systems, all of the security, You may have legacy self-service, so IVR applications that need to be replicated. And then that all-important education as well. So we make sure that you have access to class-leading education for your administrators, your supervisors, your users and agents. We align you with Genesis expertise as well. And we have access to terminology mapping as well. So if you are using those legacy Cisco Avaya systems, for example, we have made sure that we have looked at the terminology that you are using today, and we've mapped that across to what terminology we use within Genesis as well. And that is all underpinned by the Genesis change management. So as I mentioned a few minutes ago, we use at Genesis that agile approach to our projects, and specifically for those legacy vendor migrations, we have found we can typically complete the walk phase in around 6 to 7 sprints, where each sprint would typically last around 3 weeks. There are professional services jumpstart packages available for each platform, which are based on a set of predefined use cases to deliver that baseline contact center functionality. This delivery approach reduces the risk and timeline associated with a migration project. In fact, we have been able to complete the walk phase for customers to a Genesis cloud environment in around 3 months. So we have a reference, Ralph Lauren. We move them from a legacy on-prem solution across to a Genesis cloud environment within 3 months. And that is completely referenceable as well. Why do we do an agile approach? It helps you guys provide feedback a lot earlier. So we're not waiting until the end of a project for you to give us feedback within the project. It allows us to be more flexible for design changes, for example, and the all-important identification of any challenges. So as you go through this process with us, we're constantly talking to you. We're handing the environment over to you so you can complete some user acceptance testing. And if there are any challenges identified, we can start having those conversations with you to rectify any sort of challenges that have been identified as we go through that. So what you can see on the screen now is an example of a typical 6-sprint sequence for that walk phase of a project. So this is a visualization of those typical sprints included within that walk phase. And as you can see on the left-hand side, we take time to go through the planning with you. We've gone through all the discovery and understanding your requirements. We also like to get a grip of what your current call flows are, because historically, working through some of these on-premise migrations to cloud, a lot of customers will have a lot of legacy call flows in there. So it's a good opportunity for you as well to audit what those call flows are doing. Do you still need them, for example? We'll look through user stories as well. And then we'll start building out that sort of IVR and call routing for you, that agent experience. We will demo all of that back to you and then hand it over for you guys to carry out your UAT. Any challenges, like I say, we can then go back, make changes, hand it back to you for testing. And then we go through that logical sequence to make sure that all of your features and functionality that you want during that walk phase are delivered. And then we will take you live on that environment. So far, we've been very focused on that walk delivery phase for you. However, as I said at the beginning of the session, we are on that journey, and it's a journey we want to take together. And as part of that journey, there are a number of elements within our approach that will start before you have even purchased anything. And they will continue beyond the completion of that walk phase. So the first of these is education. And as far as formal training is concerned, we have learning paths available for each of our platforms. And these learning paths are available to all roles across the contact center. But education is much more than a formal training It's much more than formal training. And as part of the ongoing journey, you'll have access, like I say, to a community of Genesis experts who can respond to questions, offer advice, and provide input during the preparation and execution of your migration across to the Genesis solution. The final education element we will provide is access to the Genesis Knowledge Network, which offers catered content, training, and information that users will find helpful during that transition to Genesis. Some examples of the content available on the Knowledge Network for customers migrating across from those legacy vendor solutions to Genesis Cloud are things like things to consider during the migration, differences in terminology, like I say, between the two platforms, so that all-important terminology mapping, tips and tricks in making that transition easier, user cases to consider as part of that transition, and all of this information is readily available for you. And like I say, you have access to a community of Genesis experts as well as you go through this journey with us. But that journey doesn't end after that go live for you. So typical vendor services would end after you've deployed that solution. But at Genesis, we have a program and a service called Genesis Customer Success. And we want to make sure that you have everything you need to help your customers reach a great customer experience with you. And we want to make sure that you guys reach your goals with Genesis. You have access to Genesis Customer Success, which will help illuminate the path to your ultimate CX experience for your customers. And Genesis Customer Success is a framework. And it's a Genesis framework. And that framework is success planning, expert guidance and engagements designed to produce the results that you signed up for when moving to Genesis. It's a combination of experts from a wide range of disciplines working together to provide you with a clear path forward if you have additional business requirements. It's a philosophy. So it's a philosophy that success doesn't just happen by accident. It happens through providing a proactive and multifaceted execution as we go through this process with you. And it's a promise. So it's a promise from Genesis to be with you every step of that journey, delivering satisfying experiences for your customers. You would be assigned a customer success manager, and they will serve as your trusted guide and point of contact during that contract with Genesis. As you can see, Genesis Customer Success aims to make sure that you are making sure that you land on a stepping stone that will carry you onto the next and onto the next, onto the next. We don't disappear. We're there on a journey with you to help make sure that you are taking full advantage of what you've signed up for. And whilst your immediate goals are important to us, we want to make sure that you grow as a business, you start layering on additional customer experience channels for your customers and help you grow and deliver your vision and mission as a business. So it's all important, and like I say, and I just want to make sure that you're aware, we do not leave you as a vendor once you've gone live with Genesis. And great tools like Genesis Cloud are a good start, but there's a lot that needs to be happening within your own organizations in order for your CX operation to succeed. And I've listed a few here on this slide, but it's that defined vision. You need to have that vision to make sure that we can deliver for you. Training of staff, education is really important, and Genesis definitely have the right tools and educational courses for your staff. Adopted processes, that clear communication. Change management is very key. So you're very used to being and using on-premise legacy solutions now. We can work with you to help you understand and develop that cloud strategy and change management for you. You need to get that stakeholder buy-in, that executive sponsorship, and to make sure that all of your internal teams have that coordination and collaboration happening as well. And we're here to help you and to work with you to make sure that you get the best value of that Genesys Cloud offering. As part of that ongoing relationship, we like to focus on change management. And at Genesys, we acknowledge that every change has an impact on the most valuable resource within your organization, and that is your people. To ensure your migration is a success, we will assist you by evaluating job roles and responsibilities, internal processes, and the skills development required as each relate to that contact center and that improvement in your customer experience. Preparing for change leads to a more seamless transition and increased value realization. And within the change management, we have experts, and those experts are leading through a consultation approach, which ensures that the project continues to focus on the original vision and the desired business outcomes. To make sure this is a success, I've listed a few items in front of you here, and we can provide you with, for example, change management coaching sessions, and those are intended to make sure that you're aware of the value and importance of developing a change management strategy when adopting a new CX platform. We will advise on the best practices, and we'll include these in the guide for you as well. And those will help you get started and starting to think around how to ensure that your company's culture embraces and manages that level of change involved when adopting a new CX platform. We can help you with organizational readiness self-assessments, for example. And this self-assessment evaluates how prepared and aware you are for the change across several key components for success. Based on analysis and review of that assessment, our experts and our consultants will identify key challenges and observations and provide a summary of recommendations. We can also carry out things like change management advisories as well. And this would typically be a consultation across that warp phase of your migration. And this assessment and consultation will help ensure alignment to the original vision that you have before we start that warp phase, and to make sure that that project maintains focus on the business outcomes. The consultants will lend knowledge of best practices and shared common pitfalls throughout the whole transformation as well. There are more sort of services we can offer during this as well, and we can certainly have separate dedicated sessions with you individually to discuss these with you if needed as well. So I've mentioned the value realization a couple of times as we go through here, but the final element of ensuring that migration is a success is this value realization service. And it really differentiates Genesys from the rest of the market right now as well. The value realization engagement is an evaluation focused on customer experience and achievement of expected business outcomes from the implementation of the Genesys technology into your contact center. We approach the deployment of your new Genesys technology from two equally valid perspectives: a fully working solution covering all the mandatory requirements and more, and realization of business benefits as a result of optimal adoption and utilization of the solution you've invested in. Genesys consultants will analyze contact center data, conduct meetings with you, and deliver a presentation of findings, recommendations, and a roadmap of actions items, if identified, to drive higher levels of performance and results. Value realization will focus on evaluating the current environment after the initial warp phase, so that initial migration, and help identify gaps to increase efficiencies and improve customer experience. The goal is for you guys to realize business success through that optimal adoption and utilization of a Genesys solution combined with our contact center best practices. So we're coming to the end of the sort of presentation, but I wanted to leave it with you, or leave with you some of the top customer observations we found when moving customers from those legacy on-premise environments like Avaya and Cisco. And this is feedback we've had directly from customers as well. So we surveyed customers who have moved from those legacy on-prem to Genesys Cloud. And here are their sort of top observations as we go through. So what have they seen? They've seen that Genesys has a mature cloud infrastructure available for you, and it's available to you when you're ready to make that move as well. So within the market now, there are a lot of other vendors that will talk about cloud, but it's not necessarily true native cloud. So if you're at the start of your journey around looking at what a cloud solution may mean to your business, it's very important for you to understand there are two key different cloud solutions, if you like. So you have your Genesys true native cloud offering, and then other companies out there in the market will have private voice clouds, which is very, very different to a true native cloud environment. Innovation. Genesys is innovating internally. We are investing heavily in new and advanced capabilities, such like AI, digital bots, predictive routing, for example, and journey analytics. We're investing heavily, like I say, and we're investing internally, whereas a lot of the competition out there may be utilizing third-party organizations to help drive that innovation for them. It's one hand to hold. So as organizations today, you may have your voice channel on a specific legacy on-premise provider solution, for example, but then equally you may be doing bots through a different organization with a different user administration interface, a different reporting platform, for example, and they're not joined together. There's no single advanced routing engine. So you're using point solutions to deliver your customer experience channels today. Whereas if you move across to the Genesys world, we can bring all of that into one environment for you. And that helps you have operational gains. It improves customer experience. And you can start consolidating those disparate technologies into a single vendor. So it is that one hand to hold. We have an omni-channel desktop. Like I say, we can start taking all of those disparate technologies, pulling them into the Genesys Cloud environment, and start having that agent desktop. And it's an omni-channel desktop that enables you to start completing that customer journey, delivering context to the agents, and the agents can start managing their desktop environment through that single agent desktop interface. We have routing, so it's a single routing engine for all of your different customer experience channels, for example, and it's reliable reporting as well. So it's a unified and holistic across all of that contact center, as well as all of the channels that you're offering to the customers that are delivered through the Genesys Cloud environment. So as you can see, these are the top customer observations that customers have had. And we do like to get these feedback from our customers once they've gone live into the Genesys Cloud world. That's the end of the presentation. I hope you found it informative. We're here to help you. Very happy to have separate discussions with you one-to-one. which can be organised through your local team within South Africa. I'd like to thank you for attending, and if you have any questions, I'll open it out to the floor now. So thank you for attending.
Thank you very much, Ian. That was very informative and valuable. We do have a question. Well, actually, we had quite a few on the Q&A, but you kind of addressed them as you were presenting. One of them were Genesis use cases. What are they? You addressed that already. Another question that came in is, how long does this all take, right? Because there's different phases. So we had a question coming in. Someone was mentioning that they are up for renewal with their current provider. They have about 4 months left on their current platform. So how do they get started, and when about do they start engaging with us? Now, sooner than later? What is your suggestion on that?
I would suggest that they reach out to us sooner rather than later. Like I say during the presentation, we like at Genesis to really understand how you're working today, what your visions and challenges are, where you want to take that your organisation, for example. So we like to get really under the skin and work with you. And like I say, it is a journey, and the sooner the better. If you could approach us and we can start having those discussions with you, that would be great. But if it's 4 months away, we can start working with you now and start deploying a solution if it meets your business requirements and you're happy with everything.
Perfect. And then the last question, you were talking about the cloud that can address all the different channels. Can you just mention all the different channels that we are looking at today?
Yeah, sure. So voice is a key one. Voice isn't going away. If you read all the sorts of industry reports out there, voice isn't going away. So voice is very key, and that would be inbound and outbound voice. We can start looking at integrating into your back-end systems, for example, so empowering the agents. The agents don't need to start coming out of that agent desktop, for example, and moving across to a CRM. We can start doing screen popping, data dipping for self-service. We can do what we're calling predictive engagement, so looking at where customers are on your website and offering then, for example, chats within that customer journey. We can start escalating that chat to an agent, for example. We can start looking at outbound sort of SMS contacts, self-service. So do you do self-service today? Do you want to start offering self-service? So this could be sort of payment IVRs, for example. It could be your top 5 inbound questions that you're getting from the customers. We'd look to try and look to how we can sort of self-service those customers rather than them speaking to an agent. So you can free up agents to deal with more complex interactions, for example. So we have a plethora of different use cases that are available. I'm very happy to have those separate conversations outside of this presentation on those.
Awesome. Well, those are the only questions that came in on the Q&A. Is there anyone else that want to ask a question before we close off? Perfect. If you do have any questions and you don't want to ask anything right now, please feel free to reach out to any of the Genesis representatives. Remember that this session was recorded and will be sent out to everybody. And then Ian, again, thank you very much for your time and for the amazing presentation. It was, again, informative and valuable. And everyone else, thank you very much for your time, for joining. Keep well and stay safe.
Thank you. Thanks all.
Thanks, everyone.